There's a lot of very, very cool things to look at. Extreme positives for sure. You know, we have the new skill deck and stuff that a lot of people I feel like are undermining a little bit. I feel like there's a lot of potential there. But there's also some issues the community has as well, which we're going to be going over today. My only concern is to be the lack of info on the different districts. Yes, that is one of my concerns as well. I feel like the game taking place in LA does kind of limit the scope of everything, you know? In the original version of Dead Island 2, you can go to the Redwoods, the Redwood Forest. You can go to San Francisco. You can go to Venice Beach in LA, the Santa Monica Pier. There was a lot more variety in the original Dead Island 2, which is fine, but I do feel like it does kind of limit some things. But anyways though, let's get to the point. The only issue I have is that we haven't seen fully uncut gameplay. Yes. Raw gameplay is one of those things that we're really gonna need to be able to guarantee this game's success. But what I mean by raw gameplay is 10 minutes straight, no cuts, no edits, no nothing. Until then, I really don't know how the game is going to play and feel. I mean, truly I won't know how it feels until I get my hands on a controller or on my mouse and keyboard. But we don't know how the flow of everything is going to be. So it's gonna be all up in the air until then. Ty, should I buy the game? That is really up for you to decide. I make these videos so you can kind of make your own opinion and your own conclusions about whether you want to buy the game or not, or pre-order, or don't pre-order, or buy the gold edition, and so on. It's really up to you. Game Informer didn't mention that ammo is somewhat rare. Okay, I honestly think that's for the best. We haven't seen too much gun gameplay so far, but I do think the ammo being rare is going to make people use them less, and make them more of like an alternative that's like an extra special weapon that you get every once in a while. Like he says, I hope they don't have a giant card system like Back 4 Blood. You might be a little disappointed. The rating I hope isn't going to be Forspoken levels of bad. I have seen some people point out that this game is going to be woke, that this game is going to be fitting to some type of agenda. It's still something I don't really understand, the whole woke argument. Story combat feels a little lacking in physics. Yes, the physics system in Dead Island 2 is one of those things that I feel like could use some improvement in general. Like, for example, I need to find the exact clip, but the way you just look at some zombies react to explosions just does not seem right. Because, you know, you see sometimes the hit of weapons really work, and sometimes there's a nice area at downtown, by the way. And there is random wheels, 4 random wheels in the middle of the road. I like the door thing. Yeah, the door thing from the first game's not returning, where you have to, like, break down the door and so on. The no driving is one of those things I've had to process a little bit, but I think if the game can do traversal right enough, I don't think driving is going to be really necessary. The camera is too stable compared to the first game. I actually think the camera is a little unstable in the first Dead Island, because sometimes when you swing the two-handed weapons, you literally fling the entire camera to the side, and it's like the most obnoxious thing ever. At least that's how I felt when I revisited it recently. Maybe it's just a personal thing. Short story, empty world, no activities afterwards. I can understand that. There may not exactly be a super huge endgame. What's the main thing you're gonna have to grind for? I think that's something that a lot of people haven't discussed yet. I personally think the idea of 6 playable characters is a really nice stepping stone. It's something the first Dead Island did and a lot of other games do. 6 playable characters voiced by 6 completely different voice actors is a pretty sweet idea. And I'm glad they're not going the Hogwarts Legacy route. So in Hogwarts Legacy, the new Harry Potter game, instead of getting 6 different or many different voice actors, you'll basically have like a voice tone slider. So they'll take the same voice actor's voice and tone it up and down and modify it. So you can hear like the audacity type of weird flair to it when you hear their voice. It doesn't sound right. I don't think there's going to be a skill tree. And I think that's one of the controversial things about this game in general. Because the card system is something we don't see in games very often, at least in more budget-style games. You know, you have your card games on, like, mobile and Gwent and stuff like that, but you don't actually see it implemented into first-person zombie games or first-person action games like this. I think it can get annoying having to only have so many cards be usable at once, because some people want to unlock all the skills, have everything unlockable, and it's not going to be like Dying Light 2, where you have the full skill tree to work towards. Instead, you're going to have just a couple of different skills and a couple of different cards that you're going to have to collect. So you can't have all of your cards in the same deck at once. You're going to have to pick and choose which cards you want. Only 2 concerns I have with this game: sometimes the zombies don't react with being hit. Yep, I read that one. And how it will launch. Yes, how it will launch is extremely, extremely important in so many ways, because that is going to dictate the future of support for the game. We look at games like Dying Light 2, and they just released, and the unfortunate launch was that it was kind of a mess. So for the past year, they've had to sit there and revamp things and build things and expand things. And in reality is, we don't get as much content in that year of the lifespan of the game as we could have. I'm just worried about the bugs and fetch quests, yes. The bugs, of course, but the fetch quests, oh man, the fetch quests in Dead Island 1 are... It makes it hard to replay the missions, is all I have to say about that specifically. So that does worry me for the longevity of the missions and the replayability of Dead Island 2, because we don't know how many of the missions are actually going to be story missions with set pieces and so on. Infected hit reactions are rough and don't feel polished at all. Yep, the hit reactions definitely feel weird. I thought in the first bunch of Game Informer footage we got, they actually looked very, very rough, and I saw some comments about that on the video about it. But the second drop of Game Informer footage I think looks a lot stronger. But the one thing to keep in mind is that all is from the same build. I think it's very, very important that the game launches successfully with not a ton of bugs, because the game's launching the same day as the new Star Wars game. The first time I heard that, I felt so dead inside because I feel bad for the developers of Dead Island 2. Star Wars is Star Wars, alright, let's be honest. That game is going to be very, very popular at launch, no matter if the game is shitty or not. I think it's going to be popular regardless, and they're launching on the exact same day. I'm definitely skeptical about Dead Island 2, but I'm also very optimistic and I'm very hopeful for the possibilities that the game is going to be successful. Do I think the game is going to blow new waters and be super, super innovative and be like next gen, Unreal Engine 5, the next big step for gaming? No, it was made on Unreal Engine 4. And I think it's going to be a nice, simple, fun game, and I think that's kind of all that matters. To me, at least. But you share your thoughts. The Shockwave Effect using first. Yeah, the Shockwave Effect is not for everybody that I see. It's definitely cartoony and arcadey, and I think that's kind of like the effects for a lot of this game. I read an interview that the developers at Dambuster kind of wanted to bring that LA or like Hollywood vision of California to life. For example, in movies you see, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you get like a specific lens of Hollywood, and I think they're kind of trying to bring that to life in a modern zombie apocalyptic way. The point that melee-only combat gets old quickly when it's only 2 animations for a heavy and a light attack, I think is something to really think a lot about. Because when you look at it, it's really only 2 animations over and over again. I think if there was different animations for the hits and attacks, whether it's light or it's heavy, it adds a lot more to the immersion of feeling like you're actually, you know, hitting zombies and not spamming the button over and over again. Can we romance the Butcher? Alright, that shows me a lot what my audience wants with this game. Oh man, I mean listen, if Dead by Daylight can get a dating simulator, Dead Island 2 can get a dating simulator, alright? Just saying. Alright, yeah, I think we've read all the comments that we're going to be reading. Alright. Lovely stream, everybody, lovely stream.